Assalamu alaikum and a very good day to all present today. Welcome to the third round of English debate competition, InterVarsity Science E-Debate Challenge 2021. The motion for this debate is this house believes that Star Trek is more scientifically sound than Star Wars. I will be the chairperson and the timekeeper for room 7. Let me now introduce the debaters to you. Acting as the government team for this debate is the team from UPM Putra, with Chun Kiat as the Prime Minister, Maria as the Deputy Prime Minister, and SUDERRSHERN as the government whip. Acting as the opposition team for this debate is the team from UTHM A, with AISASHVIENI as the opposition leader, Susela as the second opposition speaker, and Kenny as the opposition whip. Our panel of adjudicators consists of Mr. Lau Seo Meng as the chair adjudicators and Sirobini Somasegaran. Now, we come to our debate today. To open the case from the government team, I call upon the Prime Minister to start the debate session.
Hi. Can I have a timer on the screen?
All right.
Okay, so I will start now. Okay, so in this debate, this house believe that Star Trek is more scientifically sound than Star Wars. I think that there's a few things that we need to define clearly, and the most important thing is about scientifically sound. So our definition for scientifically sound is basically something that is as close as possible to what scientific information that we have now, and it is firstly close, secondly possible, and thirdly it should be logical. So scientifically sound, this theme, why it is called scientifically sound, it means that whatever scientific information in the movie must be in line with the perception of people and must sound scientific by the perception of the people. It does not need to be scientifically true, or it does not need to be possible in the future. As long as it sounds like scientific to the people, our motion shall stand, which is scientifically sound. So in this debate, there's two main things. Firstly is a Star Trek, and secondly is Star Wars. So let me give a short introduction on what these two movie is. So Star Trek is basically an exploration from the Earth into other parts of the universe, and in this part there are some like learning about new stuff, and it's about like exploring about like different things and trying to be some sort of the police or the peacekeeper of the universe. And secondly, Star Wars. Star Wars is basically the wars between different empires in the universe, and it contains a lot of things that might be perceived as pseudoscience nowadays, including like mind control and some sorts of like mind control or this type of thing that is clearly not scientifically sound, which is what we perceive nowadays. So in this debate, we were going to prove to you that the Star Wars is more close resembling to the real world science, and it is more possible, more achievable, and also more logical at the same time. So first of all, why is Star Trek we would say is closer and more resemble to the modern day science and the science that we perceive as scientifically sound. So first of all, human is still in the process of exploring the entire world, and next we expect that like even if in the future human technology has been grown very significantly, we expect there are differences and discrepancy between different civilizations throughout the earth. So Star Trek basically just show us this. It shows us that human is basically exploring the universe, and there's different kind of civilization throughout the universe, and like human is in the process of learning of this stuff. Whereas Star Wars, what it tried to show us is that human has already know everything. The civilization already know everything. Like we already know that we can have like what exists and what superpowers that we can have, and what mind control or pseudoscience that we already have. And we think that what's shown by the Star Wars is not a clear reflection of the science that we have nowadays. Because first of all, it is pseudoscience, and secondly, it does not reflect the differences in the achievement between human population and also at the same time between different civilization in the different world. And that's why is Star Trek more possible in comparison to the Star Wars. So we can see that our civilization, our scientific achievement nowadays is clearly does not resemble what the Star Wars is trying to tell us. So a lot of things that we regard as fake or regard as just some legends nowadays, and what we perceive as not scientifically sound nowadays, basically just reflect completely in the Star Wars, which is like we have mind control towards other thing. We can have like we can move things with using our brain or our consciousness, which clearly might be in the ancient legend, but nowadays what the scientific community think nowadays is that all of this thing has been the something old thing, something outdated, and doesn't reflect science nowadays, and therefore it is not scientifically sound. And at the same time, to my next argument, which is why Star Trek is more logical compared to the Star Wars. So first of all, we can see that like just like what I say just now, a lot of things that the Star Trek the Star Trek does not reflect the rule of science that what we have achieved. What we have achieved nowadays. So basically, what Star Wars try to show us is that Star Wars have basically a combination of like old school retro technology with a future version of technology. So when we look at the technology in the Star Wars, for example, like their spaceship, they're basically using buttons, whereas in the space track, they are using a screen. They are using touch screen. Whereas in the Star Wars, they can teleport and they can like do a lot of mind controls, which is very high tech. But then they are using such low tech combination, which does not reflect the science nowadays. Whereas Star Trek is basically a more logical combination where they are using touchscreen and at the same time they can explore the universe. So we can see like in both of these story, there's a very huge logical problem in the Star Wars where they are using the imaginations of the very ancient time. And a lot of these guesses are wrong because they are very fantasy. They are using like those old technology compared with very futuristic technology, which means that their thinking of this technology is not comprehensive enough, which sort of misguide the viewers into like thinking that okay, we can have a very futuristic technologies that that all of these things will occur, but at the same time they are the things that they bring to us is like very old school thought, and we think that this does not actually reflect what we have nowadays. And next, not to mention, is that the whole entire values in the Star Wars is basically wars between empire. But then, as we know, right, as the human continue to develop, as we go more and more civilized, there are more awareness between values of humanitarian in the futures, like throughout the previous war, not until the democracy. Now we can see a general trend, and then Star Wars basically reverse off this trend, which does not sound like something that is possible to happen or something close to the trend nowadays. And therefore, with all of these things, we can conclude that Star Wars is not as scientifically sound as Star Trek. So with this, I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you for that speech. To open the case from the opposition team, I call upon the leader of opposition to continue the debate session.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I, as the leader of opposition for today's debate, our main purpose today is to tell you why we believe that Star Wars is more scientifically sound than Star Trek. So moving on to the rebuttals for today's debate. What side government should consider in the first place in today's debate is the fact that Star Trek has 12 seasons to create and introduce new fiction ideas, whereas Star Wars franchise, they only had 8 seasons. So the main fact that they have 12 seasons would it be an enough reason for us to say why they need to actually communicate the science fiction content in the way that Star Trek has already communicated it in today's franchise area. So in this debate, we from side opposition, we would tell you in which way Star Wars is actually more scientifically sound. First and foremost, we would like to address the fact that actually neither of them is scientifically sound or is bad in, they are bad in each other's way. Why do we say that? Is because both of them actually depict galaxy vibrance with all sorts of humanite and also alien life. The truth is so much more opposite. So like we can tell you now, like any astronomer, that our galaxy is most definitely totally devoid of humanoid life, but then it exists out there, but it is absolutely nothing like this in any way. So therefore, in a way, why we are saying that Star Wars is more scientifically sound compared to Star Trek is mainly focusing on its technology. Why we are saying that Star Wars is more scientifically sound in this way is because it doesn't have beaming. For example, the plasma based weaponry is too far, like it's beyond the expectations that we would have in today's life. Like both franchises, we have an FTL travel, so we both like we make an assumption that it is possible to bend space time around a shape, a localized space-time gravity manipulation, and so on. They are far-fetched, yes, but both of them have it. So we believe that in Star Wars, the content in Star Wars is much more realistic compared to Star Trek due to the many reasons of, because let's break it down. Like Star Wars, we have a completely different political landscape. What Star Wars is mainly focused on is like an evil empire ruling the galaxy, a conflict between a handful of royal members that are commanding the rebel empire. Whereas the Star Trek world is more benevolent, which is Earth-based, set on explorers to roam the galaxy as scientists and ambassadors aboard a navy vessel. So the first thing that we can see, the main difference that happens between these two fantasies, these two movies, is due to the lengthy seasons and lengthy showings of Star Trek itself. It had a more wide range of opportunity to actually approach its audience in a more science fiction way. But relating to that, why we believe that Star Wars is more scientifically sound is because one of the many reasons is because Star Trek itself, it violates the laws of science persistently. For example, time travel, teleportation, too many humanoid aliens, too many supernatural elements. For example, Charlie X, the Squire of Gotos, and the list can go on. So Star Wars, on the other hand, it is more futuristic. It focuses more on the scientific things that we have in today's life. For example, robots, droids, ion engines, 3D projections, and so much more. They also have realistic spaceships, diverse aliens, humanoids, and othernoids. So Star Trek, in conclusion, it's not really a science fiction, but it's just a cross between science and sci-fi. So it's really, both of them are just a mix of both genres. But saying Star Wars is more scientifically sound is why we from the opposition side say Star Wars is more scientifically sound brings to the first point from the opposition would be because Star Wars is more scientifically correct than Star Trek. Why do we say that Star Wars is more scientifically correct compared to Star Trek? Is due to the accurate scientific things that we can find in today's life. For example, the fighters and also ion engines. What we can see that from these, which are already based in reality, these ion droids and so on, they are now also being used in NASA as spaceships, space drives, and so on. Other than that, we have 3D projections and also AI scanning, which has already been implemented in the Star Wars franchise itself, and is now being used in real life, which already corresponds to the fact that it is more scientifically sound compared to Star Trek itself. So we can say that we understand the fact that government is trying to say that Star Trek is scientifically sound due to the proofs that have been shown in today's status quo. But the fact that, yes, we believe it is sciencey, but it is not ironically as scientific because of its content, because of the fact that they actually have to imagine far beyond to produce that specific content for their consumers. So in that way, we from side opposition strongly believe that Star Wars is much more scientifically sound compared to Star Trek. And with that, I, as the leader of opposition, rest my case.
I would like to thank the speaker for their speech. To continue our debate today, I call upon the Deputy Prime Minister to continue the case for their side.
If there are any POIs, please voice out or use the please voice out because I will not be looking at the text. Thank you very much. Okay, I would first like to rebut side opposition where she continuously said that Star Wars was more scientifically sound compared to Star Trek because of engines and droids. She did not explain deeply about the engines that they have shown in Star Wars because, for example, first of all, let us look at the technology in Star Wars. They still use buttons. Although, yes, they have robots, humanoid robots that have AI like we do in the modern age. But look at all the little gritty details where all the engines are still heavy compared to our modern era where actually engines become smaller and smaller by the years. We can show that we have advanced better compared to Star Wars, even if it was in space. All right. So for that, I would like to rebut that point. Okay, thank you. So as my first speaker was explaining about Star Wars and Star Trek, basically we know that Star Wars is about war, Star Trek is about travel. At least we can see, even in the old series of Star Trek, we can see technological advancement compared to Star Wars, where there was no technological advancement. You can actually see that there's buttons for every usage, every component in their engine. For example, we can all see in the Millennial Falcon where everything, even in the old movie and in the new movie, they still show that they use buttons. They still use buttons, even now in 2021 when all our screens are all touchscreen. Basically, this is supposed to be science fiction that shows that science that we can't comprehend. But they are showing us science that already happened, old science that we believe is retro and only look cool. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that side government agrees that Star Trek is more scientifically sound because even back then they already predicted the future, whereas in Star Wars they reversed and went back to the past for the sake of retro. Okay, so first of all, you can see that Star Wars still uses old technology, even in the latest movie, the ninth Star Wars, can't remember the name. All right. But you can see in the old series, Star Trek, you can see that all the technological advancement in there that we see today, touchscreens, all right? We can see touchscreen. We can see teleportation. Teleportation already exists in the quantum level, all right? And first of all, and you can also see that at least we have advancements. Whereas in Star Wars, they didn't really show advancements. They just showed modification. Even so, with modification, they still showed old buttons. So what technological advancement is there based on science? I don't know. All right. And first, side opposition would like to point out about the alien life form. Well, yes, but you do notice there are also alien life forms in Star Wars. So you can't really, both of them are all not real unless proven. So basically that point is null and void because we will put that as fiction. Okay. And please note this. Star Wars is science fantasy. Star Trek is science fiction. For example, time travel is also science fiction. We can dream of it. We can try it. But if it's science fantasy, basically it's flying around freely. Okay, Star Wars explain about moving matters with your mind, with your hand. You move things, you shoot things down. You can move the ship and make it crash on its own. But we don't have that. We don't have that sort of technical, biological advancement even in ourselves to show our impulse to another being or to another robot or any such way. So that is already shown that Star Wars is just being a fantasy. Star Wars is not showing any scientific sound to our technological advancements in today's life. Okay. Second, I would also like to show that at least in Star Trek, we can see the technological advancement in the old series, in the new series, in the new movies. You can see in the new movies where there was this movie where this guy was alive for 74 years in stasis mode. That is science. That is scientifically sound because we are trying that as we speak. We are trying that in the modern world. We are trying to see if it works or not. At least we are trying. At least we can discuss about it. And in Star Trek, they can show that this is not. They can actually show the discussion of science in their series, in their movies, about whether this is right or this is wrong. They can actually discuss whether they are playing God, whether this is the right thing to do to let everyone live. Are they trying to show immortality? Are they trying to bring immortality to the modern era? And so on and so forth. But Star Wars, they just showed war. They just showed continuous wars and wars and wars about rebels against the Empire. They're trying to show that the Empire is actually a bad guy and the rebels are a good guy. And we constantly just see people fighting with swords. Notice that they are still using swords. We, in the modern era, we don't use swords anymore. We use guns. Guns exist. You don't need to go close to someone to attack them anymore. You can just shoot them. So in Star Wars, Star Trek, you don't see any swords. Excuse me, POI? Somebody has POI?
Yes. You do realize that guns do exist in Star Wars, as
Yes.
mentioned.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I realized that we also have plasma guns in Star Wars, but they still use swords. Why is the heroes in Star Wars still using swords? There's no advancement. There's no scientific advancement there. They know guns are better, but they still use swords. So scientifically, they're not even advancing. They're just following tradition. Compared to Star Trek, they know they have guns. They continuously advance, like in terms of their spaceship. They fix stuff in their ship. They get better in their guns. They actually show like research about it. Like they actually show a bit, even if it's fiction. Compared to Star Wars, that they use guns, but the main character was what? Using swords. There's the advancement there. That is all from me. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank the speaker for their remarks. Now, I call upon the Deputy Leader of Opposition to continue the case for their side.
Thank you, Chairperson. So let me begin. Assalamualaikum and good day, everyone. I, as the Deputy Prime Minister from the opposition side, would like to stand that Star Wars is more scientifically sound more than the Star Trek. In Star Wars, like the second speaker, the first speaker from the opposition side has said, in Star Wars you have a completely different political landscape, an evil empire ruling the galaxy, the conflict being between a handful of members of a royal family commanding the empire or the rebels, and many more. Okay, so firstly, I would like to tell that both of the Depic galaxies vibrant with all sorts of humanoid and alien life are there in Star Trek and Star Wars. And the truth is so much the opposite with the real life. I can tell you right now, as for the technology, I would have to go with the Star Wars for the simple fact that it doesn't have beaming. Plasma-based weaponry isn't too far away, and that's all the blaster and lasers you see. They are all plasma. Even the lightsabers have to be plasma, and there is no other possibility. And both franchises have FTL travel, so both make the assumption that it's possible to bend space-time around a ship in a localized space-time gravity manipulation field thing. Far-fetched? Yes, but both of them have it. Beaming, we just don't know what it is. It can't possibly use space-time manipulation to work because it quite clearly disregards obstacle. It just doesn't have any theory backing it up. Secondly, I would like to rebuttal for the second speaker from the government side when she said about the time travel in Star Wars. So firstly, I would like to give you some example, the physics-defying technology or magic in Star Wars. First, we have the lightsabers, the Force, hyperdrive, lasers, blaster, anti-gravity engines, and a very large engineering projects and shields or force fields and tractor beams, and also impossible space monster. While the physics-defying technology magic in Trek, I'm pretty sure there is a time travel in Star Trek, which she mentioned earlier, that the time travel is only in Star Wars, miss. I would like to remind you that the time travel also have in the Star Trek. And while the Force is pretty impossible, it is in fact true that the entire universe is connected in time because it was all the same place at the Big Bang. Lightsabers are impossible as shown, but it is more plausible to have one of those than, say, the concept of the transporter as shown on track. Warp drive is impossible unless you have gobs of negative energy. Yet, hyperdrive is basically equal if you imagine the hyperdrive engines opening a wormhole, ship flying through it. And in the bottom line, track is more sciencey because that's their audience, yet it is ironically less scientific. Why? Let me tell you why. Because there is so much more content. But Star Wars, it is more scientifically sound than the Star Trek.
POI.
Yes, please.
You say Star Wars has more content, but Star Trek has more content, but Star Wars is more scientifically sound. And you said that Star Trek had more time to develop the science. How do you explain that Star Wars is more scientifically sound? Because at least the Star Trek, they actually explain to us how the science works and make it perceive that it's scientifically sound. But Star Wars didn't do that. So how do you explain that?
Okay, thank you for the POI. As I mentioned earlier, as for the technology, like the Star Wars itself, I will give you the simple fact, it doesn't have beaming. Plasma-based weaponry isn't too far away, okay? That's all the blasters and lasers you see, they are all plasma. Even the lightsabers have to be plasma. Okay, and then Star Wars is more scientifically sound based on their expense in their scenario. You see, both franchises have FTL travel, so both make the assumption that it's possible to bend space-time around a ship in a localized space-time gravity manipulation field thing. And it can possibly use space-time manipulation to work because it is quite clearly disregard any obstacle. It just doesn't have any theory backing it up, like I said earlier. And also, I would like to again stance with our stance that Star Wars is scientifically more sound than the Star Trek. With that, I rest my case. Thank you.
I would like to thank the speaker for their remarks. Ladies and gentlemen and the honorable adjudicators, I shall now call upon the government whip to rebut.
Okay. So I will start. I'll start my speech in. Hold on, setting up my timer. Okay, I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay. We have heard a lot in this debate where how Star Wars is more scientifically scientifically sound compared to Star Trek is what the opponent has been saying all this while, and I've heard a lot of examples throwing around plasma devices, plasma technology, but they have yet to understand the crux of the situation. We're not talking about scientifically accurate. We've been speaking about how scientifically sound all of this sounds, and that means how scientifically possible, the perception of the public, how they would think how possible it is, whether it makes sense or not, whether it is possible or not, whether it's something that we can achieve or not. Of course, if you have real life world backing, that's perfect, but the perception must be there. And guess what? That element of it, I do not think side opposition has explained at all one bit clearly. They have been going around circles, showing about energies, ion engines, and droid technology, and of course, what's the thing? Plasma technology. I do not disagree that these things are possible. And guess what? They exist in the Star Trek universe as well. However, the perception, the way it's been built upon in the Star Trek universe is way more logical. It's way more scientifically explain. They actually explain how this engine works, how it could perform, and they're still using the same ion engines to travel. Also, as my first speaker has said earlier, most of the things that they use in Star Wars is pseudoscience, and they use the retro future technology to explain their understanding of future science and stuff like that. And I 100% agree with this, because guess what, ladies and gentlemen, the way I look at it, they have been using same technology that has not been progressing for generations in that movie. If it's not progressing, how is that scientifically sound? And we all know in the world today that we live in, science is an ever progressing field, and if something is not progressing, how is that scientifically sound? It seems like they're just stuck in a past loop in the future. So this thing doesn't make sense, and that's why it explains the fantastical element of it. Of course, we have been my second speaker also noted out that there is a lot of use of the force magic, the force powers. You may explain it however you like. However, we can see clearly there is no scientific backing that we can go however close we want. This thing, if we want to even perceive this telekinesis, as we would try to give it a pseudoscience in telekinesis, all right, it would be years or eons away before humans or any living creatures can do this. So I believe it's a far-fetched idea, maybe possible in the future, but so far off, it's not anywhere close to Star Trek's technology. Star Trek's technology have always been what could happen in the future, and they have been proving that from day 1 to day 2, and day 1 to their latest iteration. They've shown us technology that could become reality and have become reality, like my second speaker's pointed, touchscreen technology, touchscreen technology, holographic projections, technology for motions, robots, cloning. So these are things that we can already see. But the way Star Wars does it is so illogical. It doesn't give us the understanding where, oh, okay, they actually use a scientific method to this. There is no method to their madness. Like side opposition earlier mentioned, they have all these kind of mega projects, tractor beams, and all these fantastical elements to it. Yes, I agree. There is the roots in science fiction. However, the science fiction is far-fetched compared to Star Trek science fiction, because Star Trek at least has grounds in reality to give the public perception that it makes sense, to make it scientifically sound. And they had more time. And I agree with side opposition that we had more time to develop the science, hence the public perception is higher. So it sounds more scientifically sound to everybody. However, in Star Wars, you just have to accept it as it is. It doesn't give us the idea, oh, how these things work. It's just like, okay, you have a big, huge transporter that weighs tons, and under that kind of science, under the basic science of physics, that kind of a monstrous behemoth of a machine would crumble on its own weight. That is not scientifically sound. That is something we can see on day-to-day basis. Why can't we build buildings big? It doesn't make sense because it will crumble on its own weight. So of course, it's pseudoscience. You can perceive the fakeness in that technology. You can perceive the unscientific reality of that technology. Of course, your side opposition did talk about a lot of plasma technology. I agree, plasma technology is here and here to stay, and it will be coming to the future. I agree. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Plasma technology in Star Wars was incorporated very much so in the use of their lightsabers. And lightsabers is the key word here. They use plasma technology to create light weapons. But then these weapons doesn't make scientific feasibility to be developed in the first place. Unless we were using it as a tools to make cracks, I can understand. Why would they create swords? They had guns, but still, that guns didn't make scientifically any sense. They'd be shooting their guns and shooting the speed of light. How is that logical? It doesn't make sense. It's supposed to be traveling at the speed of light. We have rail technology today to contrast that, but then guns today, or the new plasma technology, the rail guns today, it's so much better. So I don't see how your point makes sense and it shows any scientific soundness in your points, in your arguments. They are all nothing but substantial evidence. As I can see from all the clash points that we've had, I noticed that side opposition has been conflating the idea, has been giving. They didn't have much time. They were focused on the politics. It wasn't the same thing. I'm going to disregard all of that because that is not important in today's debate. Today's debate is just focused on whether Star Trek is more scientifically sound than Star Wars. And yes, I agree 100% because the perception they have built, the explanation they have given for any and all technology they have shown, it shows understanding of science to make sense in the future. Even if it is not feasible today, it made it seem possible. And that perception that has been created with Star Trek is near a way more grounded in reality than the ones created in Star Wars. And for that, I can easily say side opposition has not been able to prove to me why that Star Wars technology is more scientifically sound than Star Trek. And I would say there are many common grounds that they use similar technologies, but when it comes to the scientific the scientific soundness, Star Trek does a way better job in explaining to its people, to its viewers, how it works, and therefore making it more acceptable. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank the speaker for that speech. It is now time to listen to the rebuttals of opposition whip.
Hello, that's my. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of this debate, we have seen two sides comparing technologies. We have seen two sides comparing the depictions of space fantasies in both movies. So, in today's debate, what my side has brought up to you to this debate is that we have given you like substantive and proof to you why the technology that is being used in Star Wars is much more relevant in today's society. My first speaker has brought up to you about the 3D projection, as well as the humanoids, as well as the technology that they are using for space exploration. And my second speaker has mentioned about the the idea of of going to wars with technology of lightsaber itself is something that we should consider, because in reality that is what humans have been undergoing to reach that kind of technology. So, ladies and gentlemen, in my speech today, I'll be giving you two rebuttals. The first one is rebuttals against side opposition, where they question our technology when it comes to the usage of buttons, when it comes to the usage of guns and etc. So the second speaker mentioned about the usage of buttons, right? Where they keep on pressing us, where the buttons that are being used in Star Wars is outdated, is retro style, and it does making the whole premise to look to look to look to make Star Wars look technologically downgraded. But this is far from the truth, ladies and gentlemen. The idea of having a button as a technology itself serves more than what we would have expected in today's society, because this movie is created and is being produced way older than the technology of buttons, than what the technology of buttons that we have nowadays can do. So when it comes to guns, when it comes to the usage of weaponry itself, because Star Wars is depicting the idea of space wars. So we have seen characters like aliens. We have seen characters using the swords, but it's not swords that is made out of metal. It's not swords that is made out of copper whatsoever. It is a swords that is made out of lightsabers, or we can call it a plasma technology. So this plasma technology, if you haven't known, has actually has undergo certain research and undergo certain development in order to make it real in our today's modern technology. So we are actually approaching to this technology more than what Star Trek can offer, because because the technology that are available in Star Wars is are way more closer to what we have been progressing so far. So for the prime minister, they mentioned about teleportation. They question our side that teleportation doesn't portray the reality in our modern science, the reality in our society. But they failed to realize that teleportation does exist as well in their side of the house. They mentioned that the technology, that teleportation is is uh, is not connected to what science has to offer, because it's not true, because it's complicated. It's some sort of irrelevant to what we can do with our technology right now. Therefore, since Star Wars, since teleportation does exist in Star Trek, we do see that this point is contradicting. That is a minus from them. Yes.
Okay, no matter the technology occur at which side, do you think that a scientific technology that is developed through exploration and like testing is more scientifically sound than a technology that just come out of nowhere, just like Star Wars?
We don't think that the technology in Star Wars is just pop up of nowhere without having any actual research, right? Because if you look at the movie itself, we can see that there is a civilization. Whereas in Star Trek, you have people exploring to space and suddenly they come up with this type of technology, right? So we do see that the technology or what we can link in Star Wars is actually is more truthful, because Star Wars does offer us hindsight on how a civilization that is more technologically biased, that is more technologically advanced. We can see how they are portraying the advancement of technology through their building of civilizations. So I'll be rebutting the third speaker, where they kept mentioning that our reality is far fetched from the truth. Side opposition has to realize that this government is talking about fictional movies, where we are talking about reality that doesn't exist. We're talking about reality that involves some sort of magic, some sort of aliens that is not even available in our current society. But as mentioned by the third speaker also, they also came up with the idea. They also rebutted our points on how this technology is only that our technology in Star Wars is far-fetched, since we are portraying the wars, but we don't think that it is necessarily irrelevant. It is necessarily useless. It is necessarily applicable when it comes to war, because the war itself shows technology where this technology has been used to give you a proper resemblance of what we can do in our real world. And with that, I'm proud to oppose. Thank you.
Now that we have heard all the three speakers from both teams, we shall take a short break of 1 minute. During this time, both the government and the opposition teams will prepare the reply speech. The 1 minute break starts now. The time of 1 minute has ended. I shall now invite the opposition leader from the opposition team to deliver the reply speech.
Okay. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Very good day to side opposition, side government, members of the floor. As the reply speaker for side opposition today, what I would be doing is I will be saying to you why side opposition should take today's debate. As the motion says, this House believes that Star Trek is more scientifically sound than Star Wars. We from side opposition have given you several points and several explanations into why Star Wars has proven to be more scientifically sound than Star Trek. First and foremost, the thing that I would like to highlight is that, as my third speaker has said in his speech, Star Wars has a setting of civilization that embodies technology much more than Star Trek has. So in this way, we can show that Star Wars is technologically advanced as but due to the fact that the series, as the Prime Minister and also as the leader of opposition and also the deputy leader of opposition has said in their speeches, due to the fact that Star Wars was not given the opportunity to extend their ideas into more fictional and applicable scenarios, they were able to put their advancement in technology that sounds scientifically sound in the scenario of the movie itself, compared to Star Trek, which had 12 seasons to sound more scientifically advanced to their consumers, because that is the main issue of the movie itself. So moving on to why we believe that Star Wars should take today's debate is because of the accuracy in the scientific accuracy and also the scientifically sound advancement that has been shown in the movie itself that is being applied in today's scenario. For example, as said by the first speaker in her speech, the fighters and as well as the ion engines that are being used in today's world in NASA robots and so on, as well as the 3D projections that has been shown throughout the Star Wars movie, and as well as the development of their technology in ways of weapons and so on. So with that, we from side opposition truly believe that even if Star Wars was not given the opportunity to expand their scenarios in technological development as much as Star Trek did, but they are more scientifically sound compared to Star Trek in many ways based on their scenarios, as well as in today's world. So with that, we from side opposition has never been prouder to oppose. I rest my case. Thank you.
I would like to thank the speaker for that speech. I shall now call upon the Prime Minister from the government team to deliver their reply speech. I'm sorry. I shall now call upon the Deputy Prime Minister from the government team to deliver their reply speech.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Side opposition tries to show that they advanced where they have a civilization. Is it scientific, a civilization? Yes, perhaps. But they still show old technology. We cannot deny that they still show old technology. And they tried to prove that with engines and plasma rays, and they said it doesn't exist, but actually it already existed, but they did not use that point, so that's null and void. And please realize that Star Trek was created around the same time Star Wars was written. Basically, Star Trek started in the 1960s, whereas Star Wars already started in the 1970s. At least Star Trek had a head start, yes, I agree, but scientifically sound, they did not explain. So basically, they say that Star Wars didn't have enough time to explain their science. I don't think so. But they did not try to explain it closely to science of the real world. So basically, what I'm saying is that Star Wars did not explain as well as Star Trek, hence they are not as scientifically sound as Star Trek, hence Star Wars is actually better. Basically, Team Star Wars is always better because scientifically sound, scientifically similar, scientifically relatable to the real world, Star Trek wins. Alright? Because Star Trek already has proof. Star Trek used fiction. Star Trek has actual books and such that explains what happens in their world. Even if it's still fiction, it's something. And whereas in Star Wars, if you guys actually did your research, you can know that lightsabers were actually from a stone that magically gives you the light. Yeah, that does not exist. That sort of science does not exist. I don't think so it will ever exist. But yeah, side opposition tries to show that they are more advanced, and they try to rebut us about aliens, whereas in their side they say they also have aliens, but they try to focus on humanoids, but they still have aliens. They still have civilization with different types of species, different types of genus and family and stuff like that. But at least in Star Trek, it shows that we are learning about aliens. In Star Wars, they did not. So basically, what side opposition did was that they were trying to rebut us, whereas they were already more advanced. And also, please notice this. Side opposition said that their Star Wars movies were more in the future. They had civilization, so it's more scientifically sound, but they still show old technology. Hence, it's not similar to our real world science. It's not similar to advancement. Like my third speaker said, science is always advancing, whereas Star Wars is reversing. Star Trek is advancing, at least we can see. We can see the changes. We can see the advancements. Star Trek did not. It was stuck. It was plain simple. They just tried to show that side government had aliens, or they tried to say like, oh, we have weird stuff. And I think side opposition second speaker said that I was explaining about time travel. First of all, time travel was in Star Trek. That I agree. I did not say it wasn't. It was there. At least it was still fiction. They tried to change our words. They tried to find different ways to rebut us, but then they didn't really show enough proof that they were better than us. Hence, I will proudly say that this is my reply speech. And I support that Star Trek is scientifically more sound than Star Wars. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Prime Minister. We have now come to the end of the debate. Debaters are asked to remain in this room while waiting for the adjudicators to make a decision. Adjudicators are reminded to move to the adjudicators discussion room in the Cisco WebEx via the line provided.
Dude, what's your opinion on this debate? Like, honestly,
know, man.
your opinion? No, not on the whole debate. Not on the whole debate. The motion.
Yeah. But
Which one do you prefer? Okay, you give me your option. Which one you like as a movie franchise, and which one you think is more scientific?
And
I'm
we
a
as nerds
Star
will
Wars
rebut
fan.
you.
Huh?
Oh.
I'm a Star Wars fan.
Okay.
Okay, fine.
But I don't know, because I didn't watch Star Trek, so I don't know how the movie goes.
Okay, fair enough. See lah. Then how
When
about
I see
side?
when I see this motion, my feelings was like, what the
Yeah.
I also don't even know like what technology, what is going on with those two movies, man.
This thing, like I also forgot. I watched that thing so long ago, so I'm like trying to remember. Okay, what happened?
Wait,
This technology. Okay, that
Kenny,
one.
is that Kenny talking? Your mic is kind of muffled a little, actually. Oh, Kenny, I'm sorry.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, we can hear you.
Right. That's the thing though. The movie is like so specific. Like it's quite hard for us to like have any idea on the technology, since like none of us watched the movie, man.
I haven't even watched one. I've not watched one.
Wait. Not watch one what? Star Wars or
Which
Star
one?
Trek
Star
or
Wars
both?
and Star Trek, both.
Oh, you
Yeah, me
also.
too. I've never watched
I've never watched
No,
one.
no,
Not even
no.
one.
I also never watched both.
Yeah, see, there you go.
Disaster for
You
me.
never come watching, right?
I'm sorry, but
Nothing bullshit.
I'm sorry that we're both nerds. Me and Shen. I'm so sorry.
No, but like,
Oh,
I mean, it was still interesting the way you all brought it up, lah. There were points I thought you guys had like really like solid points.
Pretty
I was
good,
just like,
actually, now. Yes.
oh, but yeah, I mean, cool. I well, you guys have ordered lunch already or not? 12 o'clock already.
No, I just want to sleep after this. My God.
I have something called a roommate. She bought for me.
Oh, yo, so nice. My friend is MIA right now, so I don't
Your
know
friend
where
is sleeping,
You guys are
friend
like
is-
all of you in campus or?
Yeah, we're stuck in campus.
except
Oh
for
my
Chunket. Chunket
goodness.
I am not.
Yes.
Oh, you're at home.
You
Chunket.
guys cannot go home, is it?
No.
Why?
And we sort of don't want to.
Okay,
Oh.
there is that, but I don't know. I heard recently, like if you want to go back, you have to be vaccinated or something. So I was like, huh?
Oh God.
I'm like,
Have you been
yes,
vaccinated?
no, and I'm like, come on, let us have the vaccination. I'm waiting on it, man. I'm waiting. The process is so slow.
Exactly.
Suggestion.
Yeah, man.
Did you study in Matrix Selangor before?
Yes.
You're gonna ask your
Wait.
Do you remember Bill Sharon?
Yes.
Ah,
Yes. Okay. So you're his friend, is it?
yes.
The thing is, right, you know the best part about it? You see this UTHM group? So UTHM B has
Yeah.
a participant called Tanadawan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that dude is also well, best part is that dude is close friends with Bill Sharon. And yeah, they both from Matrix also. So like, I thought I was gonna be fighting that guy earlier. I was like, oh yeah, time to like see what he's got.
He's quite good though.
Yeah.
With it.
Hmm?
He's quite good as well. So he's
Okay,
more
actually.
like more yeah, he knows a lot about this movie, so it's quite
Oh, so he's experienced lah.
yeah, so I mean when it comes to the movies type of things, I think he watched more than what
It's
he
good.
consumed.
It's good.
Now we're
Okay.
scared.
Damn.
I was scared. Okay.
I don't know. Loki still.
But I agree this motion was fun.
I like the previous motion better.
Which one?
That was
And then
nice.
The same
Yeah.
route or
The robots, the human rights.
The robot
robots,
one.
I like that.
oh yeah.
Oh, that was a nice
That was
motion.
fun.
Interesting also. Yeah.
That was a nice motion. Just had a blank when it came out.
This motion is not in my league. Like no.
Yeah, it feels more like a pop cultural motion than a scientific motion.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, we were kind of ready for the scientific. We were kind of ready for the scientific advancement and in the new normal in COVID-19, and then suddenly,
Exactly.
oh,
Yeah.
I was like,
I
what?
was like expecting COVID-19 a lot.
I was like,
Can't.
Star Wars, COVID, where? Where?
I do.
I can't find.
The first thing was I was like really shocked when they talked about like the first motion was about Ralph, right? I was shocked. But I don't know why.
You know, I never watched that video, the Save Ralph. I never watched the video.
I just watched half and then I was like,
It was too scary for me to look at. It was just like, no, I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
No, wait. I mean, the Save Ralph thing, right? It was a bit ridiculous, lah.
Huh? How?
Like-
to be honest, yeah.
It was a bit
Why?
ridiculous.
Why
Like
ridiculous?
Hi.
the,
Huh.
the way they brought it forward, right? The kind of testing they showed in that commercial, a mockumentary, it wasn't scientifically based. It was just what they could think of as painful and torturous.
Yeah, like
Why-
injecting the eyes and everything.
Exactly. Like, I mean, I no doubt people inject eyes. There are medical this medical operations where they inject things into your eyes, especially true even for humans. But then when they do that, they have anesthetics involved, and usually what they inject is anesthetics. That's usually the case. So like, I found that ridiculous, especially for a cosmetic company. Why would you inject something into the eyes? Who in their right mind would inject
Yeah.
anything into the eyes, even if you put it to the commercial market? So it's like, hey, a bit ridiculous lah. Come on.
Actually,
Yeah.
I can rebut you there. We
Got
have
rebut.
eye makeup. We have eye makeup. Hence,
Hmm?
we at least know what happens when some sort of makeup chemical goes into a cornea of the eyeball, basically. Okay. So, what? What are you trying to say? Huh? Trying to fight me,
POI,
is it?
POI.
POI.
Okay, no. But what I meant is they put injection into the eyes. Like,
Yeah,
this one is putting it on top. If you put a drop on top of the eye, then I understand. But if you put injection, that's different.
that's true.
It's different. So yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah, like
the makeup
inserting
we
the
wear it on
needle
the skin, right? Why not people wear the makeup inside the eyes?
Exactly. Like, bro, what the hell, man?
That's the point actually.
Termasuk. Also, we do have
I mean, like
contact
she's
lenses.
talking about the fallout and everything, like fallout
Ah.
because of the
Contact
mata.
lenses.
I
also
mean,
get.
let's say if it falls out, so it's on top of your eye, the corneal layer at least, So like, it's still not
Oh,
going
yeah.
to go inside your eye.
Okay,
So-
fine. You win that one. Okay lah, you win lah, whatever lah. Okay, where?
You guys are second year students or first year,
I'm
second year?
The
I'm
old man
second
down
year.
there, he's second year, yes.
Old
What
man,
about
huh?
you, Maria?
First year.
Are
You?
First year.
First year as well.
Nice. Okay. Vini.
Just call me Sashi. Sashi.
Sashi. First year, second year?
I'm first year as well.
Wait,
okay,
Daniel, how old are you, man?
21.
Okay, lah,
Second year.
same age. That makes sense. Yeah, I was wondering. Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Just
You
in
scared
case.
you're only alone, is it?
Hey,
Know
what are you talking
how
about,
it
man?
feels. Know how it
What is-
feels being the only female debater in the first round when you were very nervous. Yeah, feel it. Enjoy it.
Oh, you meant like that? Hey, come on, lah. I'm a guy. I'm a guy. Okay, never mind. Let's not go there. It sounds very what's that thing called? Misogynistic. Yeah, let's not go there.
Yeah.
Daniel, are you from the debate club?
No.
Science faculty.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Are you like the AJK or something?
No, I'm just helping my friend because there are not enough chairperson, so I'm volunteering myself.
Oh, okay.
See you lah. Wait, what's after this, right? How long is the lunch break?
I think the next roll call is 2 something.
Yeah, you see.
Let me see. Give me a moment, please. Thank you. Okay, roll call for round 3 is 10 p.m. Round 3, 10:30. Break from 12:30 to 2.
Yeah.
So the break is
okay.
12:30 to 2. Okay.
I thought it was 10:30 at night. I was like, oh yeah, let's go. Can sleep properly.
Wait, we did roll. Okay, wait. Huh?
The next roll call will be the
Wait,
round 4
we
roll call.
are doing round 3. Oh my god, I'm so
Yeah.
Yeah.
sorry.
Slowly, Maria, slowly.
Sorry, panicking. I have a lot of assignments due, like shaking.
Yeah, I have
We have exams next week.
We have
We have
exams.
exams next week.
Next week,
Yeah, our finals are next week.
Yeah.
But, this is this is
Face final next week.
The
Okay.
educators are here.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Losiome, are you ready to give the deliberation?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you may start.
Okay. First of all, yes, it was a very tough topic. So, in consideration, we did not take into account either group's knowledge of the Star Trek or Star Wars universe. You started before you were born. There's a lot of literature on Star Trek and Star Wars. I say literature, they are mainly books that are written, many fan blogs and all that. So all that we put aside. We just concentrate on the arguments that were presented today. The government side made very strong. You stick your ground from the start. You define scientifically sound as logical, possible sound, and you progress steadily on that argument. The opposition, it was felt, was a bit on the back foot in the sense that you were responding to that, but you did not challenge their basic premise. Is scientifically sound, does it really mean logical? Does it mean possible? What about being credible? Credible in the sense of it makes sense to have that scientific technique or machinery of that time. So, for example, I could be driving an old Jeep in Malaysia now because the roads still require it, right? So that's still scientifically sound. It works. We found the opposition to be more on the defensive side. There were a lot of things you could have, should I say, looked at closer at what the government said. But let's talk about the government more. Good points were that Star Trek was evolving, which is the human side of technology, where Star Wars was futuristic. So they are on different timelines, I believe. But again, that is when you're a fan. The government tried to reduce the argument to guns versus lasers, buttons versus touchscreen, engines versus ion thrusters, tractor beams, and all that, right? But there is actually more than that for being scientifically sound. Not forgetting that Star Trek is grounded in 1960s sensibilities, both in terms of gender roles, in terms of politics, in terms of humanitarian objectives, and so on and so forth, right? So giving a wider context to the technology would have reinforced your argument, right? In which case, the opposition could have said, as long as humans have fingers, you will have buttons. And there's always the restrictions of renewable energies, material resources, and so on, which then may make things not look so futuristic, but still scientifically sound for its time, right? Right. So there's also the argument that the world of Star Wars is more immersive than Star Trek. Star Wars pays a lot of attention to creating the new worlds, whereas Star Trek, there's a more limited views worlds, and you get snapshots of the civilizations. Okay, we won't go into things like time travel and teleportation and all that, because both genres, both series are guilty of putting in some science fantasies. But then it can also be argued that what we consider mysticism today is scientific in future. A lot of the new technologies that happen, like even the steam engine and all that, electricity, was very mystical when it first came out. Henry Ford proved electricity by electrocuting an elephant, right? And people were surprised that they could read at night. So that could be an argument for why the Force that's discussed in Star Wars could be scientifically sound. It's like the shamans of today, all right? Okay. So there were a lot of arguments on the Star Wars side that could have been fleshed out more. But I found that the opposition did not really state their case why Star Wars was scientifically sound, but they spend more time rebutting the government. Okay. Right. Okay. A special shout out to the DPM of the opposition. You really expanded the argument a lot. You brought in engineering projects. I presume you mean the Death Star. You started to explain about mythicism because we're all connected by the Big Bang. So you started to lay some of the possible scientific groundwork for the things that are happening in Star Wars that could have been basically carried forward by other speakers. And then you build the world from there on the Star Wars, giving the viewers and the judges a different view, right? A whole world as compared to the Star Trek world that was being produced. And the repetition that there were 12 seasons of Star Trek and 8 seasons of Star Wars, and therefore we are being overwhelmed by the material of Star Trek, and there are more time to develop the story and to make it more scientific sound. Well, how does that help? Because the Star Trek showed how they got into space, and Star Trek built a Death Star within a movie, within 2 hours, right? So that argument could have been developed more. However, we found that interesting because you made the argument that basically both are fantasy and neither are sound, which was very sharp of you, because the motion could have been argued both of them are equally fantasy, or Star Wars is more scientifically sound. So we would like to mention that within the speakers, there was a bit of a difference, because the first speaker said neither are sound, and then I think the later speaker said Star Wars is more sound, and you started defending it. So a bit more coordination, or should I say alignment on the government side on their position. So with that said, I'm very happy, pleased to mention the verdict. The scores are extremely close because the speakers delivered their points excellently. The winner we declare for this debate is UPM. Congratulations.
Okay, Mr. Losiomi, do you have the best speaker?
Best speaker, Shushila, right?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Losiomi, for the deliberation. With that, the House of Parliament is adjourned. Thank you.